my first time talking about myself and talking about my augmented reality career. So pretty much, I'm an augmented reality creator with about 4 years of experience. So far, going around 4 years of experience. I'm based in Sydney, Australia, and I mostly experiment with Lens Studio, and I do experiment with Spark AR, but the bulk of my experience has been with Lens Studio. Um, Ever since I was young, ever since I was a kid, I've really been like passionate about art, and and back in school, back in primary school, high school, just drawing and painting. But I never knew how to turn it into a proper career myself. So when I did graduate high school, I was so lost and I didn't know what I wanted to do after high school, which is crazy because all my friends sort of had their lives figured out, and I was still trying to decide. I was still trying to make sense of my future. Um, and I actually didn't pursue a creative career after high school. I became a personal trainer. And then I realized that I really didn't like being a personal trainer. And this is about, gosh, this was back in 2010. And I started taking art classes and I started taking painting classes. And I just wanted to learn how to paint and draw. And it wasn't until about 2013 when I decided to become a freelance graphic designer. You know, um, so I was working full time and just learning art and design on the weekend. And I decided to take the plunge, become a graphic designer, become an illustrator as well. Back and you know what, I had no formal qualifications in that career at all. So I'm just like self-taught, taking online courses, taking workshops in person, um, and just yeah, since 2013, just freelancing and just working with clients, graphic design, branding, all that type of stuff. Eventually, marketing. But just throughout my freelance career, I felt like there was like something missing for me. Um, and it wasn't until about 2017 that's when I discovered augmented reality. And I first discovered Lens Studio, and I was just on Snapchat and I was watching someone's stories, and I saw them making a filter, making an augmented, like an AR filter, and like I was sort of like blown away by like what they were doing. And I decided to download Lens Studio and just see if I can sort of just play around with it. Like I wasn't really taking it serious, and like I made a few lemons back then. Like I made a few like really bad augmented reality effects, and I just did that for a whole, I want to say 6 to 8 months. Um, just making like whatever, gosh, like I was making augmented reality effects like uh, Dragon Ball Z scouters. I was making halos. I was making donuts that float over your head. Um, so like eventually, like getting into AR forced me to learn 3D design, and I'm sure everyone has followed that tutorial on YouTube, the Blender tutorial where you're making the donuts. Um, so yeah, and like I just used AR as a way to learn 3D, and eventually I was fortunate enough, maybe about a year later, to join the Snapchat Visual Lens Creator program. And since then, I was just like I met all these like amazing people and like all these amazing creators, and then eventually, like, gosh, like was fortunate enough to work with brands like the United Nations. I've worked with Sony Pictures. I've worked with, gosh, Dixie D'Amelio. Um, I've worked with a few different brands since then, and it's been a very surreal experience for me. Just someone that has pretty much just someone that has always like wanted a creative career and just didn't know how to start. And AR was probably the first thing that was able that was able to fill that hole for me, that to give me that sense of fulfillment. Um, and I think a lot of people would probably relate with that because um, it sort of levels the playing field. I have no formal qualifications. My qualifications aren't in anything to do with creativity. You know, and it's interesting. It's interesting because like we were taught growing up that you need a degree to pursue any type of career. And for some of us, especially from ethnic backgrounds, our parents told us that like being a creative was not a career option. Like, and they still might not understand it, but it is something that like we do try to pursue because it gives us a sense of fulfillment. I would say that my favorite, like my first time working with a brand was my first time working with a brand was actually Sportsbet. And Sportsbet is actually a gambling company. And it's interesting because we made a Snapchat filter, and back then I didn't feel like I was good at 3D design just yet. But I did have like some decent illustration skills. So we ended up creating a 2D game, and I worked with a developer named Jai, and Jai's from Adelaide. You may know him as Jimmy the Woo on Snapchat. Yeah, we ended up working together, and we ended up coming up with this game for Sportsbet, and that was my first experience working with a brand, and it was very surreal for me because I've always wanted to achieve that somehow. But it probably wouldn't have been possible if I didn't start experimenting with AR. Even though my work was really bad at the start, and really bad, like just sometimes when your work is like really, really like just rough, and you're just experimenting and you're just trying to find your place, you start. It's really hard to explain. But like another thing is like, especially as someone that doesn't have a degree, I suffered with imposter syndrome for most of my career, thinking that gosh, I don't have a degree, and I'm working with brands when someone with a degree should be in this position, and I felt bad about that for a while, but that's the beauty of AR. Like it's still such a booming industry. It's such this technology is still booming, and like no one can claim it. It's not exclusive to anyone. So if you are an augmented reality creator that is hoping to turn it into a career, don't feel bad. Don't make yourself feel bad. Don't be so hard on yourself, because honestly, like it all comes down to like your passion. You want to express yourself. You want to use different avenues, and AR is just another way to express yourself. And I think that's the beauty of AR. Another thing I would say is a lot of people find it difficult to transition from other careers. Like, for example, if you might be a graphic designer and you might think that AR is not for you, or you might be in marketing and you might think that AR is not for you. You'd be surprised I've seen graphic designers like do amazing things with AR, like even repurposing old projects, and just like taking an old project and just presenting it in an AR format, and just like showcasing that in a different way. Like that is a way to get your foot into the door with AR. And like you don't have to be an expert. Like there are like, especially with Spark AR and in Studio, there are like plenty of like tutorials online, and there are like plenty of templates that you can just like use to get your foot in the door, and no one is an expert. Like, and no one is going to sit here and judge you for creating something that you think is cool. It's funny because like we're always very hard on ourselves when like really like everyone is just worrying about their own life, and like we're not in competition with each other. And yeah, and like especially like going on to 4 years now in augmented reality, I think my favorite augmented reality effect that I have made would be so back in 2020 there was a LensFest hackathon, and part of the reason why it's my favorite is because it was so exciting working on that project. And it was pretty much a hackathon, and it was 100 creators go up against each other. You get put into random teams. You don't have an option of who your teammates are. So I was put into a random team with just random people that I really didn't know beforehand. And on the team, I worked with a designer named Sufi. Sufi from she's from Thailand, and I worked with a developer named Daniel, and he's from Australia. And we ended up coming up with a game about saving bees. Um, and like the whole idea behind the competition was to use AR to serve a good purpose. You know, like something that is like just for a good cause. And we thought that at the time we thought that like we need to put more emphasis, raise more like awareness about bees, because they're just to avoid their extinction and just how important they are for our environment. We ended up making this game, and the whole idea behind this game was we wanted to create something that was sort of like that was influenced by like Pokemon, that was very nostalgic, and that was just very easy to play. And we ended up making this animated like environment, and it was really cool. And we ended up like placing. I think we placed. We were one of the top 5 teams, you know, which was like a very like rewarding experience. And I just remember it being so fun because you get to work with, I got to work with like with other creators, and our intention wasn't to like win, but we just wanted to have fun. So really, with augmented reality, if you are getting into it and you do start experimenting, just focus on having fun at the start, you know, and eventually like just venture out, meet new people, and just collaborate with other people. And you'd be surprised that you'd come up with like so many different ideas when you're just bouncing off each other, you know, when you're working towards like a common goal. And a lot of people don't really like discuss what it takes, like what you should like when you're like trying to approach a project. One of the most important things that I feel like brands don't understand sometimes is their actual audience. Like you may feel like that you understand their audience better than what a brand would, if that makes sense. But what I'm trying to say is that you may be approached by brands that just want to make a filter, and you feel like the effect is very me, if that makes sense, where it's less emphasis on the audience and more about just showcasing the brand. And a lot of the times you feel like when you do come across an effect, like I have to be honest, like sometimes when you do come across an effect and you feel like it is over commercialized and it's just a quick like it's just a quick like cash grab, it sort of removes you from the experience, and people do get turned off those types of things. So if you were working with a brand and you want to, and they provide you with like a creative brief, and you feel like the creative brief would probably affect the project, don't be afraid to voice your opinion. Don't be afraid to tell them that, hey, I don't think this is a good idea, but I feel like that we should do it this way. We should approach it this way. Because at the end of the day, AR is very user centric. We're trying to create something that the user will enjoy and the user will just understand. Where some brands just think slapping a logo onto an effect is just calling it a day. You know, at the end of the day, it's your work, and if you can if you are part of the reason why something is successful, it just makes your portfolio look better, and it just makes you look better to everyone else. You know, and it's a lot more fulfilling, because I guarantee you, if something doesn't work because you felt like the project, you felt like the brief was really bad and it doesn't work, they're going to blame you anyway. So you might as well just voice your opinion. Just be honest. You know, just have some of that integrity, and yeah, just don't be afraid to just be honest with people. And if I can leave you with another tip, I would say at the start, don't think that, like, if you're having trouble turning it into a career, just understand that this is just like any other like business. Say if you are working full-time and you want to become a full-time AR creator, just understand that there are like a lot of things that you got to keep in mind, like marketing and your personal branding. And as a creator, it's important to have that sense of like personal branding, because if you look at the top creators, you look at the way that the way that they like the way that they share their work, and the way that they explain their work and they explain their process. It sort of gives you like a good image of them. And it's important that you don't just over commercialize yourself as well, where you just want to work with brands and just like brands can benefit from this, and brands can do this, and brands can do that. Sometimes you just have to develop your personality, and that personality may just come through your experimentation, where you're not focusing on trying to please a brand. Just please yourself first, and just like and just be selfish, and just experiment as much as you can. And you'd be surprised the amount of like inspiration that you could gather from just like doing like random things, like reading or watching TV, or just like going for a walk. Doing nothing sometimes is actually really is a good way to sort of kickstart your process. So don't think that you always have to be on and you always have to make something. That's where I sort of just throughout my career, I always felt like I had to develop something, or like, oh gosh, I haven't made an effect in a while. I should do this, and I should do this. Oh, I feel so bad. I feel guilty. Like it just harms yourself. Like it will just harm you at the end. Yeah, and that's pretty much like what I have to say in terms of pursuing an AR career. Just focus on yourself. Focus on having fun, and don't be afraid of trying new things, getting out of your comfort zone, collaborating with people, and just network with other creators. Don't worry about the brands, and don't worry about the work and all that stuff. That stuff will eventually come if you're just consistent, because it's not, at the end of the day, it's not quality over quantity. Honestly, it's quantity over what did I say? I said that wrong. Oh my God. Okay, so it's quantity over quality. That's what I think. I feel like quality is defined by quantity. You're not just perfect on your first day. You have to go through many lemons before you end up at like something that is actually very appealing to others. And yeah, I feel like there's so much more that I could say, but I feel like I've spoken way too much. And I hope that I hope this was insightful for you, and it just encourages you to just keep pursuing your AR career. Just stay creative and just keep experimenting. If you just sit there, and if you're just sitting there and you're waiting for inspiration to sort of strike you, it like, for some reason, inspiration doesn't work like that. Creativity doesn't work like that. Sometimes you'd start a project and just realize that, oh, hey, this isn't going to work. I'm going to try it this way. And it sort of just comes off that bad project. It comes off the rough edges. So just focusing on just like create. Don't always focus on consuming. Just when you switch it to just creating, just create as you're consuming, it is a good way for you to sort of find your style. And it's similar to what artists do, like illustrators and artists, and like say fine artists. It takes a while for them to find their style. So they might start off with drawing, or they might start off with like life drawing, or like oil painting, and they realize that, oh, hey, you know what? I'm more drawn to drawing comics, and then like eventually that defines their style. It's just you just have to learn the foundation, and you just have to experiment. That's the main thing. And I feel like that should be the main takeaway. Just really experiment, and just don't be afraid of making things that look ugly. Like you may think it looks ugly, but really like it's progress, it's growth at the end of the day. Yeah.